Hi, I'm Fran and my organisation is Sheffield Woodland Connections, and that's a local tree charter branch that was set up to help launch the Charter for Trees, Woods and People back in 2017. The Sheffield General Cemetery is one of my favourite places for leading woodland walks. So we've just come through the main entrance to the Sheffield General Cemetery here, and we're presented with this fantastic willow tree. This willow tree has a multi-stem habit. It's got lots of different stems to it, and I know it's a willow despite the fact that it hasn't got your typical willow type leaf. So when people think of willow leaves, they tend to think of a long, thin or lanceolate shaped leaf, which was popularised by William Morris, and the rest of the arts and crafts movement has appeared on many wallpapers ever since. What we've actually got here is a goat willow, or something very similar to a goat willow, because they readily hybridise with other species. But the leaf shape is an ellipsoid shape. It's narrow at the leaf tip and narrow towards the base of the leaf and much broader in the middle. It's actually very difficult to age this tree because it's been coppiced. So it's been cut back and regrown. And we're nearly at a full height tree now, but not quite. So it's obviously had chance to regrow. So it could be well in excess of 100 years old, but there's no way of comparing it to another tree because it hasn't got a single stem that we can measure. I'm next to a beautiful old oak tree here, and I suspect this is one of the oaks that actually predates the cemetery landscape. It's possible that this tree was quite seriously affected by the air pollution that came with the industrial landscape in Sheffield. And so it's really hard to actually age any trees that are this close to the urban centre because they've been affected by stunting. So although if we take the age based on the measurement and the fact that it's an open grown tree, we could say it's probably somewhere in the region of about 200 years old. However, if you add into the fact that we've also got the air pollution factor, then we could add another 100 years to that easily. So we might be looking at a 300-year-old oak tree here. We're so lucky to have a large oak like this close to the city centre because they are not common trees in urban environments because they are high water demanding trees, so they're very rarely planted in urban spaces because they're not a very practical choice. And so it's to our benefit, and also all the other wildlife that visits the General Cemetery, that Robert Marnott had the vision to retain these trees because they are fantastic habitat. There's nothing quite as good as an oak tree. So we're very grateful that this tree was retained. So we're next to one of the weeping hollies here, and there are a few of these dotted around the cemetery. And the Victorians really loved their tree symbolism. And so they planted weeping trees because, of course, they represent mourning and loss. But they planted holly because it's an evergreen, so it also represents everlasting life. And as I wander around the cemetery, I often think about how much symbolism we've lost and how many people realise that the Victorians planted these as potent symbols of the way they felt about the loss and the potential for everlasting life. I'm underneath a very large crowned Oriental Plane here, and these are special trees because there's only a few of these in Sheffield and there's 3 in the General Cemetery. It's got this wonderfully incised lobe leaf, so it's very distinctive. So if we look closely at the bark, we can see it's very flaky for a start, and you can actually peel it off, although I wouldn't recommend doing that. So this is one of their adaptations and why they're such a good tree for pollution, because they can actually shed their bark and renew it. But the other factor, of course, is the fact that they are multicoloured. And it depends on what tree you're looking at, but some of them have a lot of green in them, almost like a minty pastel green. Some of them have slightly pink tones and buff browns, and also grey, light grey browns as well. So they're a very multicoloured tree, and sometimes that's almost in a camouflage pattern. These are trees that can grow to up to 30 metres tall, and they've got this incredible drought tolerance. So I expect this will do very well as our city warms up and we face increasingly high urban temperatures. This tree, which is probably at least 180 years old or thereabouts, will hopefully last for at least another couple of hundred years, because there are specimens dotted around the world which are well in excess of 500 years old.